The Pythagorean theorem. The sum of the squares of the lengths of the legs of a right triangle equals the square of the length of the hypotenuse. If the legs have lengths of A and B, let's look at our picture. If the legs have lengths of A and B, and the hypotenuse is C, then A squared plus B squared equals C squared. In this triangle, the two legs are adjacent to the angle C. They're closest to the angle C. The side opposite angle C is lowercase c, which is the hypotenuse. The Pythagorean theorem says if you take each leg and square it, add them together, it will equal to the hypotenuse squared. You use the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side of a right triangle. So, let's look at this problem here where we're evaluating trigonometric functions. Find the value of each of the 6 trigonometric functions in this triangle. Well, when I look at this triangle, I see that I have the 2 legs, but I don't know the hypotenuse length. So let's use the Pythagorean theorem, which is a squared plus b squared equals to c squared. A is 5 squared plus b is 12 squared equals to c squared. 5 squared, 5 times 5 is 25, plus 12 squared, 12 times 12, 144, equals to c squared. 25 plus 144 is 169 equals to c squared. To go from c squared to c, you will take the square root of both sides. So when you take the square root of both sides, you get c equals to, we normally get plus or minus the square root of 169, which is 13. But there's no such thing as a negative length of a side. Therefore, we only get positive. So ends up my c is 13. Now, we've already talked about sine, cosine, and tangent. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. Oscar had a heap of apples. So using theta, what is sine of theta? Opposite, which is 5, over hypotenuse, which is 13. Cosine of theta is adjacent, the side closest to theta, 12, divided by the hypotenuse, which is 13. Tangent, opposite of theta over adjacent of theta, which is 5/12. So sine, cosine, and tangent. Now we can find the remaining 3, cosecant, secant, and cotangent, knowing that cosecant is the reciprocal of sine. Well, if cosecant is going to be h over o, it is the reciprocal of sine, which was o over h. If cosine is a over h, secant is its reciprocal, h over a. If tangent is opposite over adjacent, cotangent is the reciprocal of tangent, which is a over o. So going back and finding the values of each one of these, cosecant, hypotenuse over opposite. Hypotenuse would be 13 over opposite, which is 5, is your cosecant. Your secant is the hypotenuse 13 over the adjacent side. Adjacent of angle A is B, which is 12. Cotangent is adjacent over opposite. The adjacent side would be 12, and the opposite side would be 5. So we have used the Pythagorean theorem to find the missing side, and we have used our formulas to find sine, cosine, tangent, cosecant, secant, and cotangent.